It's a great big day. Wherever there's a hang, you'll find the Spider-Man.
Come on! Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the world. I am George Massey, and I just went to see Spider-Man Homecoming. People are raving about it, they're saying it's amazing, they're saying it's the best Spider-Man movie, and some people are saying it's the best superhero movie ever. Well, me, couldn't help it, as usual, spotted a series of mistakes, of flaws, of problems, of plot holes, and I've compiled them into a video just for you. Let me know if you agree, because these things to me stuck out like a sore thumb.
Number 1.
The film had some good humour, but it didn't take itself seriously enough in the moments when it needs to take itself seriously. For example, the famous line that's in the trailers where Tony Stark, Iron Man, says to Spider-Man, "If you are nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it." That is a serious line, it's relevant, but the line is instantly tarnished and ruined by the fact that once Tony Stark says the line, he says, "If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it." And then he says, "God, I sound just like my father." And that instantly takes away the weight and the gravitas of the actual line. If you go back to the Sam Raimi films, they're very good at crossing between exciting and funny and serious when they need to be serious. Like, imagine if Uncle Ben had said, "With great power comes great responsibility." Jesus, I sound just like someone out of a comic book. You know, it would have ruined the line. So that happens a lot in this movie. There are points which should be serious. Even when it comes to the action in this Spider-Man movie. There's a good fight at the end of the movie using the shocker glove, the power glove. The power glove.
I love the power glove. It's so bad.
But anyway, Spider-Man is fighting in the bus yard and he gets punched through a bus, and what happens? The action and the excitement and the intensity is lost because he looks up and he sees the chewing gum underneath the bus seats and he says, "Ew." Now, it's quite funny, it's light relief, it's comic relief, but do we really have to have it? Sometimes it is better to say we don't always need humour.
I'm gonna need the suit back.
But I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
Sam Raimi, obviously a very accomplished, controlled, methodical, direct director who did the first popular Spider-Man trilogy. He did not have this problem, and one thing that's very good about his direction compared to this is that it can be very funny, but then he will also do things like there's a brilliant scene in Spider-Man 2 when Spider-Man is deciding whether or not he actually wants to be Spider-Man, and he takes the famous line from the comic book, "Spider-Man No More."
No, Uncle Ben. I'm Spider-Man. No more. No more.
I feel like if that was in this movie, it would have been, "I'm Spider-Man no more." But, you know, maybe I'll keep the suit because the suit's kind of badass. It would have been like that, like we can't take it seriously. And ultimately, when it comes to actual immersion, when it comes to something that's going to remain with you on some kind of emotional level, something that goes beyond entertainment, you have to be able to take certain things seriously as a writer and a director in a film. And this movie is lacking in the confidence to actually take certain things seriously.
Oh yeah, I gotta go.
Hey, where you going? What are you hiding, Peter? I'm just kidding, I don't care. Bye.
Number 2.
Okay, the Shocker is a bad guy at the beginning of the movie, the one who wears that kind of glove that can punch through things, and then later on that device is passed on to another bad guy in the movie. But the Shocker is only in the movie for like a matter of minutes, and I've read all of the original Stan Lee Spider-Man comics. Okay, nerd alert, but to be perfectly honest, it doesn't take that long. There are only about 100 of them. If you want to read every single Stan Lee Spider-Man comic, it wouldn't take you any longer to read than reading a couple of Stephen King novels, if that. Alright, nowadays you don't have to spend a lifetime collecting Spider-Man if you want to read them all. You can just download them, and that's what I did. So I've read all the Spider-Man Stan Lee comics, and the Shocker was actually my favourite villain. He was my favourite bad guy. I also thought if I ever made a Spider-Man movie, I'd definitely use the Shocker as a villain, but also because in the comic, the Shocker, like most of these villains, is using science and what was then futuristic technology to create his weapon. And the Shocker uses magnets, he uses repelling magnets to create those gloves so that he can punch through walls without feeling any real force, okay? And I thought, well, that's a great idea because it doesn't seem too far off from technology that we could actually create. Similarly to Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2, you know, the idea of somebody having implants so they can control additional arms is not actually too far a stretch. It's actually relatively plausible. There is science today where scientists took a man who was paralyzed and they put a chip in his brain that allowed him to surf the internet. So just by thinking, he could move the mouse around on the screen, which is incredible.
And in those experiments, the neuroscientists placed a very small microelectrode implant on the surface of the brain.
Now obviously the next step would be to give a paralyzed person bionic arms, to give them limbs that they can move, and if they can think and control a mouse, well, at some point they can control an arm that's not theirs.
On this monitor is a readout of the signals Zach's leg is getting from his brain when he thinks about moving.
So knee out, put my toes down, toes back up.
So Doc Ock is not out of the realms of plausibility, and neither is the idea of a character like the Shocker who slips something over his arm which has the power of repelling magnets so that he can punch through walls, or punch Spider-Man and it feels like he's getting hit by a freight train, right? That's quite fascinating. But in this movie, not only is the character the Shocker completely wasted, like he might as well just be like some bad guy who appears in a Ninja Turtles movie for 6 seconds, like he's a sub-character, but also the technology is alien technology. It's the idea that all of this amazing technology and power comes from aliens, but that diminishes the actual curious appeal of the fact that we are living in an age right now where that which was merely science fiction when these comics were originally written is nowadays not totally science fiction. We are actually getting to a point where it might become science fact. We might at some point see stories of real villains who are almost like superhero villains, which would be quite fascinating and much more interesting than the way they depicted it in the movie.
We'll return after these messages.
YouTube has thousands of channels, many of which have millions of subscribers. You are currently watching a small channel with almost no subscribers. Give a guy a break, huh? This stuff takes work. Go on, hit that big red button. Only cool people are allowed to.
Number 3.
So we have the great reveal that in fact Michael Keaton is the father of Peter Parker's one true love, okay, and this is a good twist, it's exciting, the sequence in the car is very good, but then what happens is Keaton drives Peter and his daughter to the prom, and the girl gets out, and then Michael Keaton turns around and he's like, I know you're Spider-Man, I can kill you and everybody you love, but you saved my daughter's life, so I'm gonna spare you, right? And the thing is this is so dumb. Like, I was sitting in the cinema like, oh, come on. Like, this is the stupidest thing ever. This guy, the Vulture, Michael Keaton, is a bad guy. He's a villain, right? And he's already had his previous attempt to destroy a ship in New York ruined by Spider-Man and Iron Man, who showed up to save Spider-Man, Peter Parker, right? So the Vulture, Michael Keaton, would know Spider-Man has ties with the Avengers, right? Who will kick the shit out of the Vulture if they can. Peter Parker can just say to the Avengers, hey, I know who the Vulture is and I know where he lives, right? So let's just go and take him out. So there's no way that Michael Keaton would let Spider-Man go. That would never happen. He'd just be like, you're Spider-Man, huh? Pull out that gun, bang. And they should have started the action scene right there. There should have been a chase. They should have driven off. There should have been fighting outside the school. You know, it would have made so much more sense, because there's no way that Michael Keaton's character would have let Spider-Man go.
Number 4.
Spider-Man's in Washington doing the biggest climb in the movie. Some of the cinematography is great. Some of the shots are great. Some awesome stuff, okay? But it's like, well, we haven't got any villains for Spider-Man to fight in this scene. I know, how about the police swoop in with a fucking helicopter and start firing machine guns at Spider-Man? Yeah, that'll be exciting. Actually, right, why the fuck are the police trying to shoot Spider-Man? Like, that was so dumb. Talk about just a device to create some kind of excitement. I was genuinely sitting in the cinema going, it's Spider-Man. Friendly neighbourhood Spider-Man, right? It's not like they don't know who he is. Spider-Man in this movie was already on TV, and they said in the news in this movie, Spider-Man was spotted trying to save a bank and defeat the villains, right? And it's like, so the police know he's a good guy. They know he's a hero. They know he's stopped crime and criminals already. He's already somewhat celebrated. So why the fucking hell have you got police flying up to him in a helicopter and opening fire, right, as if he's a bad guy? That made absolutely no sense. Why not just create villains to fight Spider-Man instead?